all of you a pleasant day. Let's start with the Vedic prayer for everybody. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramay, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukh bhag bhavet. Now today we are going to talk how to change our daily routine to make it happy, to make it healthy, to make it loving in the real sense. Now, before we get into the very specifics of that, it is very important to prepare the background. Like when we put the seed in the earth, you have to prepare the earth properly so that the seeds germinate. So same way, I would like to emphasize a few things today, which are extremely important for our day-to-day functioning, and that can transform our life in a significant way. The specific steps which we take, I will come to them at a later stage or maybe in the next session. Now, first thing we must realize that, dukh is, you can call it distress. Distress in life is a part of life. This is rooted in the very nature of our existence. You cannot imagine a person who does not have distress. He may be the king, he may be the president of US, or the queen of England, or the prime minister of India, or the chief of the Bollywood, or the greatest star of Hollywood. Everybody will have pain in life. Pain and distress are essential part of life. Now look at Buddha. His whole philosophy is based on dukh. He goes out from the palace and he finds a person who is very poor and starving, suffering. Next day he goes out, he finds a person who is very sick and who is, suffering from sickness. Third day he goes out and he finds a person who has died and people are taking his dead body for the cremation. So his whole philosophy is based on what he call Jivan mein dukh hai. So dukh, I don't believe that there's only dukh. I believe there is dukh and sukh both put together. But dukh is an inherent part of life. And therefore we should not become dukhi because of the dukh. That is very important. You must understand, and we must understand that inevitably everybody has to have some sufferings in life. There's nobody who will have no sufferings in life. It is impossible. It's like asking for a coin which has only one side. You can't have coin with one side. It has to have two sides. So that is the first fundamental principle we must understand to regulate our daily routine. That we should not get too much scared or too much fearful of distress, suffering. They will come, they will remain with us. That is part of human life. Now, I think I'm frozen here. There is, can you hear me? Yeah, now it's better. So that is one very important part, and that is the reason why Indian sages in the past talked about nirvana and moksha. Because they all told us that if you want to get an eternal peace, eternal happiness, then you cannot get that in this world. You have to get out of this world. Foundation of moksha and nirvana. And therefore, we should not get too much perturbed when we get some kind of pain, suffering, and distress. These are part of life. This is the play of life. We have to accept it. That is one first lesson we must learn. The second thing is very important, that the universal consciousness which exists all around us is converted into body-mind complex because of the two factors. The matter and the mind limit that consciousness to our body. Let me explain it with the example. You have vast open sky all around you. It's all akash, empty. And in the middle of it, you put a tent. Now the tent also is akash. It is nothing but akash. But you have enclosed that tent, that akash with the tent. And that becomes your abode. Now, that is what the structure of body is. The matter in the body and the mind in the body, they limit this universal consciousness to the body. And therefore, our attention is attracted to the body all the time. This is a natural process because in the vast open sky, when you have a small little tent in the middle of it, the attention is not on the open sky. The attention will always go on that small little tent, though it is nothing in that vast open sky. But exactly the way the human body works. We give attention to the body and the mind complex because that is our limitation. That is where we are confined. But at the same time, we want to get out of this complex and merge with the universal consciousness. Why? You take the example of a tire. You put air in a tire. The air is everywhere in the space, but that air in the tire becomes specific to that tire. It becomes part of that tire. But it always wants to come out of the tire and merge into the open air wherever it is. Similarly, you put water in a pot. Whenever the water gets out of the pot, it runs toward the ocean. All the time it will run towards the ocean, invariably. It will go down the drain and go to a river, and the river will go to the ocean. So the process is exactly the same way in our case. Since we are part of the universal consciousness, and this consciousness has been made into a limited consciousness because of body and mind complex, we always want to get out of that and merge with the universal consciousness. And that is the reason people are looking for eternal happiness. Why do we look for eternal happiness? Precisely because we have become prisoner of this matter mind complex. And that is why in Indian philosophy, they call it liberation. You get liberated from this confines of the matter and mind. So these limitations of the matter and mind has been put because uh, you want to express yourself in a form. When there is no form, there is no limitation. That reminds me the chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, in which Arjuna asks Krishna that those who pray for you in the form and those who do not pray for you in the form but in Nirakar, uh, in Nirgun Nirakar, who is better? So Krishna says both are praying for me, both are good. But it is not easy for the human being to pray in Nirgun Nirakar because he himself has a form. So since we have a form, we remain attached to the form and we behave that way. So the form outside becomes very important for us because we are trapped in a form which has been made due to mind and matter complex. So this is very important lesson we must know as a fundamental part how and why we want to get eternal happiness all the time. Why do we have that desire? You ask anybody, he will ask for happiness. Ask somebody that you want suffering, nobody would agree for that because this body mind complex is already enclosed us in a sort of prison. Now coming back to the first point of dukh. Now dukh are actually inbuilt into the nature. that we call it Trigunmai Maya. The Sat, Raj, and Tam, these are the three elements that make this nature, the nature surrounding us. And the combination of these three create trillions of variations. And depending on that, uh, the, the combination of Dukh and Sukh is made. Now there are four variety or five variety of Dukh, I can say, are invariably associated with every human being. Every human being, nobody can get out of that. The first pain is the pain of your birth. You remain inside your mother's womb for 9 months, completely enclosed in a big prison, where you can't even move. And when you come out, it's a very painful process. And that is the reason you cry as soon as you come out, deeply cry, because the pain of your birth is unbelievably strong. That is first pain we have to live with. The second pain is the pain of periodic illness. Everybody in life will have some illness. It is a body mind complex because the body is made of multiple organs. And natural process. So that natural illnesses which happen to every human being is the second pain we have. The third pain we have is the pain of old age. Now, everybody will attain old age. We know that. We have seen our parents attaining that age. In that age, our sense organs don't work properly. Some people can't see properly. Some people cannot hear properly. Some people cannot eat properly because your teeth get disturbed. Some people digestive system does not work properly. Some people cannot sleep. So there are variety of things that happen in old age. So that is inevitable. Nobody can escape, whether you are the ruler of the world or whether you are sleeping on the pavement. Doesn't matter. You will have to have these three elements, three pains. The fourth pain is the pain of death. You know, everybody is scared of death, and that pain is inevitable. We know everybody dying around us. Still, we have that fear. Now that is a natural built-in fear. We don't want to, despite the fact that we want to attain moksha, we still don't want to leave this body. We are trapped into this strange situation. It is an ironical situation where we are trapped. So this is the fourth pain which is invariably there with everybody. So these are the four universal pain. And then the fifth pain is the pain of daily nature. You want something, you want to buy a new car, you buy a car, you become very happy, and then you find a car of your neighbor which is much better and much bigger than that, and you become unhappy immediately. You go to the market and you buy a very nice trouser for yourself, and then you come home and you find that another shop offers a much better trouser, and you did a mistake. So these are the pain and pleasure we experience every day in our life. These are the world. So these 5 pains you cannot escape. Nobody can escape. Okay. So we should not be scared of that pain. We should also know the limitation of our body mind complex. The body mind complex is trapping our consciousness in such a way that we feel little bit imprisoned in that position. And that is why we want to get out of it and attain eternal happiness, attain our liberation. So these are the two important points. The third important point which I want to mention is uh, in uh, in this whole universe, there is no machinery, there is no technology, there is no engineering better than human body. Human body is the most complex, most sophisticated, most advanced machinery ever invented here. Now, this body, just to remind you of a few very small facts, it has over 100 trillion cells in the body. 100 trillion cells. Can you imagine the network of all those cells? In our mind alone, in our brain alone, we have 100 billion nerve cells, minimum 100 billion in our brain alone. We have 100,000 kilometers of blood circulating every day in our body. Those are the blood cells where the blood keeps circulating. Then we have, you know, 16,000 kilometers of fiber network inside the body. The nervous system is made of that fiber network. The entire spine and going out to our cervical region and the brain, and then going to various parts of the body. It is estimated by the science that 16,000 kilometers of fiber optic network is there in our body, which takes all the energies from one place to another. We were talking about Vyan Pran, that is the Vyan Pran which goes that way. They say 16,000, where the Prasnopanishad says 7.2 uh, million, no, 72 million uh, nadis in the body. So whatever the statistics doesn't matter. The fact is that the body is a miraculous creation. They say the liver in our body creates so many varieties of chemicals that it would take at least 5 square kilometers of area to put up factories and produce that kind of chemicals in the physical form. So these are some of the fantastic, operating side of the human body. And since it is such a sophisticated body, obviously something can go wrong here and there if we are not careful. Even if we are careful, something may go wrong because it's such a sophisticated system. This is the only system where, you can see my hair. These are inanimate. These don't have life. We can cut them. From an animate, inanimate coming out. And what we eat is inanimate, it becomes animate inside. This is a live process, which is happening day and night. It's a miracle. Can you create, by putting dal, roti, and juice in a best laboratory in the world and create a life? It's impossible. And from the life you create inanimate, it's impossible. So the third point I wanted to make today is that this is a very complex, sophisticated system. That is the body side. Then the mind side. Mind complex has mind, intellect, and ego. These are the three major parts of mind complex. And then the third complex is consciousness complex. So these are major three complexes in the body. The matter complex, which is the body. The subtle mind complex, which is mind, intellect, and ego. And then the consciousness. Now, on top of this mind, on top of this body, sorry, the mind complex comes, which is more subtle and far more powerful. We discussed about the mind. We discussed about the subconscious mind, which is, buried with all kinds of memories, all kinds of things which happened to us in past for thousands of years. So all that is there in our mind complex, and they keep coming out, popping out whenever we recall something. These keep happening, and the old information comes out, creating disturbance in your consciousness, creating disturbance in your thinking. So we must remember that this is a very, very sophisticated system. This system has three that is the subtle element, that is mind, intellect, and ego, and the consciousness, which is not even subtle, which is absolutely, non-existent in the material sense of the word. So this is the enormity of this complex, how the operating system works. In Sanskrit, there is a very nice word they use it. It's called Navdwara Puri, a city of 9 gates. Puri is like, Jaipur is Jaipur, Udaipur, Singapore, Kanpur. Pur means the city. A city with 9 gates. The 9 gates are our 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, and the sense of recreation and excretion. So these are the 9 gates of the body. And this is a city inside. In the city, there are millions and billions of people living inside the city. I was told that the number of bacteria, the number of other things which are living inside, their number could exceed, millions and billions. That's a matter of speculation, but whatever it is, uh, somebody says there are 32 million bacteria in the human body, normal human body. So you see 32 million bodies are living inside us. And then all these systems are working. So that is why it's a proper, well-designed, sophisticated city which has 9 gates. So this is what it has been told by our, what you call Indian sages, they who examined this process. So 3 points. Dukh, inevitable, nobody can escape. Second, mind-body complex, which imprisons us, which keeps us confined to this body complex. So we all the time think about it, and we forget about the vast open, space which is available to us, and it forces us to remain confined there. Thirdly, the most fantastic engineering, most fantastic, machine ever created, this body. That is what I would say. These are the 3 important points we should know before we move to other points. Now, fourth point. In Sanskrit, they call it Srashti Chakra. Srashti Chakra means the normal law of nature, how the nature conducts itself. For example, the sun rises every morning and sets in the evening. There's a cycle uh, of the seasons which follow with the sun, that okay, the sun has its own what you call cycle in which it moves, and the earth moves around the sun in a different cycle, and which combination of the two gives us day and night, gives us the seasons, and gives us the year. That is one Srishti Chakra. We cannot change it, we have to accept it. That's how it works. Okay. Another one, for example, the fire. Fire has heat, it has light. It is natural property of fire. It is a Srishti Chakra. We have to accept it. We have to live with it. Look at the water. Water flows down. It goes by the what you call, wherever there is lower ground, it will go to the lower ground. It is gravity which pulls the water all the time. Eh, the fire is not pulled by the gravity. The water is pulled by the gravity. So this is a Srishti Chakra in which there are thousands of laws of nature. I'm just giving a few examples, but there are thousands of laws of nature which operate in this Srishti Chakra, in this universe, which govern this universe day-to-day life. Now, this whole environmental problem which we are experiencing now, it is because we are disturbing this Srishti Chakra. We are disturbing the flow of airs. We are making them dirty. We are disturbing the flow of water in the rivers. We are disturbing the underground water. We are, uh, you know, consuming a lot of minerals, taking out those minerals and leaving the waste outside. All that is disturbing the Srishti Chakra, the natural cycle of the earth, which operates on daily basis. So we have to keep that Srishti Chakra in mind. We cannot fight against that chakra. If you try to fight against this chakra, you will be completely exhausted. You will create problem for yourself. You will create a stress for yourself, and you will never succeed. That is one lesson we must know. And therefore, we should learn to live with the Srishti Chakra. If we want to live a healthy and happy life, we have to live with Srishti Chakra. We have to live with this law of nature. As, as and when we decide to fight against the nature, we will get into trouble, we will get into stress, we will have uh, tremendous amount of pain creating to our own self. So this is the fourth point I want to make before I move forward. Now, fifth point. The fifth point is the point concerning body, not body, the mind, intellect, ego, existence of body. Now that is a very subtle existence which regulates our body, but it has its own problem. Now this complex is very powerful complex. This complex is not fed by us directly, but whatever we do in this world automatically gets stored there. Whatever we see, whatever we do. For example, if you go and see a very violent film, now you did nothing, but that will be stored in your mind. You are not eating it like a food you eat, which can disturb your body, but that's also like eating. That's like inputting the thing in your brain, and that can come up anytime, anywhere, disturbing you in the future. So we keep taking in our subtle complex, that is the mind complex, lot of inputs all the time. Whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we read, eh, when we travel, we see many things. When we see films, we see nature, we see people, we hear a lot of things. All that keep storing in our that complex. And that complex becomes a mind-boggling cloud. We call storing in the cloud. That is the cloud, even more powerful than the cloud we talk about. And that cloud stores everything for thousands and thousands of years. And that becomes the source of our pain and source of our pleasure also. So this is a very important subtle existence which we don't realize can contribute to our happiness, can contribute to our health, but can also contribute to our unhappiness, to our sufferings, and to our ill health. So these are the 5 points I wanted to mention in a very systematic way so that we understand what we are talking about next. Because the specific daily routine which we are going to talk will actually come on these fundamentals. eh? If we are looking for happiness all the time, it is not possible in this world. You have to experience pain as well, and without experiencing pain you can't even realize the pleasure of happiness. Unless you suffer in the sun, you don't know the pleasure of shade. So this is linked. So this world is linked with pain and pleasure, and therefore we cannot uh, avoid pain here. People say, और मेरे को दुख हो गया, ये समस्या आ गया. अरे भाई, समस्या तो अपना जीवन का हिस्सा है. So we should not get upset with that. We should know how to tackle this, how to live with it. That is what we have to learn. समस्याएं जीवन का हिस्सा है, दुख जीवन का हिस्सा है. अगर आप इस संसार में हैं तो दुख मिलेगा आपको. आपको दुख नहीं चाहिए तो आप इस संसार से बाहर जाइए, लिबरेट होइए, मोक्ष लीजिए, निर्वाण लीजिए. That is what is needed. So that is one point. So the limitations of body is another point. Why are we confining to body all the time? Because we are imprisoned here, and that's why we confine. That's our attention. Center of our attention is our body mind complex, because our whole consciousness is confined there. And that is why we only see the forms outside. We don't see things which are not in forms. Nirgun, Nirakar, we cannot see because we are in a form, we are imprisoned in a form. So that is the second point. eh. And the complex machinery it has, okay, very, very highly sophisticated, which can always go wrong. There can be some, malfunctioning anywhere, anytime. After all, it's a machine. eh. Machine can go wrong despite all the, precautions you take. So we have to be ready for some ill health. Health can deteriorate. There can be problems. It's natural. This process is there. And what we are inputting to our mind is also a source of, could become a source of big pain sometimes. It can become a temporary pleasure because you are watching a film, you are enjoying that time. But in that film of 2 hours, you are inputting a lot of things in the brain. There are a lot of violence, sex, and I don't know what all comes there. All the temptations, and they get stored in your brain, and then they will come out. So the pleasure which you had will also give you pain later on. So this Navdwara Puri is a complex system. We must understand this complex system in that form, and then slowly in the next session we will go into each and every element which can enable us to overcome all the problems we have with the complex. eh. And remember Srashti Chakra, the law of nature. We have to follow them. We cannot uh, swim against the current. If you want to swim in the river, you have to, it's easier to swim with the current. If you go upward into the other side, you will be completely tired and maybe exhausted after a few minutes. And that's how it happens. So don't go against Srashti Chakra. Follow the law of nature that will facilitate your life in this world. Your existence will be deeply facilitated if you follow the Srashti Chakra. And your brain would be ready if you know that dukh is a part of this whole existence, that this confining to the body is part of my reality because I am trapped in a body mind complex, and that this system is highly complex and something can go wrong, and we have to be ready for that. So this is the background which I wanted to prepare today, to put the specific things which I think will uh, take another session to cover those specific things. And I'll go very systematically what we should do for the body, what we should do for the mind, and how we can keep our consciousness in place so that we do not lose sight of it. All that will come in a very systematic order. But let us reflect on these 4 5 points today and understand that this complex city in which we are living has a wonderful structure, and that structure itself has its own positive and negative sides, and therefore we should not take that structure all the time as negative. If some stress comes, it's part of life. We have to take it as it comes. That's it. Don't get stressed because of that stress. eh? But before I end, I want to explain 3 words here, which are very important for the next session we will have. There is a Sanskrit word called bhav. Bhav means to be. Bhavti, bhavata, bhavanti. These are, Sanskrit roots which have various forms. Uh, Bhav means exactly the meaning is to be. Bhav gives rise to bhav. Bhav means the naturally being, what you are naturally. That is bhav. And then swabhav. Swabhav means your basic nature, which is born with you. That is your basic nature. Now that basic nature and the law of nature, they are synchronized. So if you can't fight against basic nature, you can't fight against Srashti Chakra nature. These two are synchronized. And therefore, when you try to fight against them, you will get into trouble. So bhav, you should be what you are. Bhav, that is your natural tendency of your being, and Swabhav means what you are because of that bhav. What you are because of that bhav, Swabhav. Similarly, uh, there is a word called swasth, because swasth is important part which will come next time. Swa means swayam, means sthiti, where you are established, as you are established. Means if you are established in your own self, then you are swasth. If you are not established in your own self, then you are not swasth. That is the actually science of uh, everything is in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is such a deeply scientific language. I cannot imagine any language like this. Each word has its science behind it. So if you are established in your own self, then you are swasth. I mentioned this before that if you don't feel that your leg exists, then your legs are fine. If you don't feel your hand exists, you are fine. But if you feel your hand exists, means there's some pain somewhere. If you feel your forehead exists, means there's some pain in your forehead. Eh? When you don't feel anything, it means you are swasth. So bhav, bhav, swabhav, swasth. These are four words plus another word. That is a word called vichar. Vichar is thought, or it's not manan. It's not manan. You can call it chintan, or you can call it just thought. Now, char, achar, vichar. Achar means your conduct, your normal conduct. Okay. Vichar means your conduct, which is creating ripples, which is creating sensations, which is creating, some sort of lahar, tarang. uh, That is vichar. All the vichar create a sensation, a movement somewhere. The word vichlit, the V comes that way. Vichlit means you get, somewhat disrupted. There's a sort of, tarang inside you which makes you shaky. That's vichlit. The same word vichar. V comes before char. So that means all the thought process, the rationality process. The mind has intellect. Intellect gives you rationality. So when you think with your mind and analyze with your intellect, that actually leads you to tarang, which leads you to some sort of shaky grounds. Why? Because the intellect can find arguments for or against anything in life. There's nothing in life which cannot be justified either way. You can justify a clear murder, and you can, uh, you know, criticize a murder. You can justify that so and so. Uh, like for example, right now in Rajasthan, there's a big fight going on between the Rajesh Pilot and is Ashok Gehlot. Now there are people who can justify what Gehlot is doing right. They have strong arguments in favor. Then there is another people who have strong arguments in favor of Rajesh Pilot. So you can justify anything. So the thought process, which ultimately leads to dissection, that is analysis, and logic, actually makes you illogical. It makes you, uh, it makes you deviate from the path of synthesis, from the path of unity. It gives you doubts. It creates doubts in your mind, everything you do. And it is very important, because this thing will come. Why we get unhappy with the situation? Because of these arguments.